There are 3 dark personality types, and most men remain completely blind to which one is secretly ruling them. This blindness is not harmless. In fact, it is the very reason why they end up manipulated, discarded, and forgotten. Yet the few who possess the courage to look into the mirror and recognize the darkness for what it truly is are the ones who win. For power belongs to those who stop pretending to be inherently good and instead begin to master the shadow that drives them from within. If you are unaware of which one governs your instincts, your emotions, and your ambitions, then your fate has already been decided without your knowledge. The most tragic part of this is that most men falsely believe themselves to be strong, when in reality they are merely emotionally addicted to admiration. That is the curse of the first type, the narcissist. Contrary to appearances, the narcissist does not truly love himself. Rather, he desperately needs to be loved and constantly craves to be seen, acknowledged, and applauded. Whenever he walks into a room, his mind immediately begins calculating, not for power, not for opportunity, but for attention. He wonders who is watching him, who is not, who praised him and who ignored him. Trapped within this endless theater of validation, he becomes a slave to perception, though he never perceives it that way. In his own mind, he believes he is confident, charismatic, and destined for greatness. He even convinces others that he is self-assured, but the truth is, he is consumed by one great fear, the fear of being unseen. His entire life is constructed around the need for admiration, yet he never feels admired enough, for beneath all the performance lies something rotting, fragile pride. One insult can send him spiraling, one rejection can ignite his desire for revenge. The narcissist is not strong as he portrays himself to be. He is starving, and the more he feeds on praise, the more dependent he becomes upon it to survive. You will notice his presence in every room, loud, curated, and slightly too polished. His wide smile is constant, yet his eyes are always scanning for any sign of disrespect. Praise him and he glows, ignore him and he withers, challenge him and he shatters. In those moments you have witnessed the mask slip, and it becomes clear the narcissist does not truly possess defenses at all. He lives within illusions, and when those illusions inevitably crack, he collapses into one of 2 extremes, rage or despair. Neither of which are controlled, neither of which are rational. He is an empire built entirely on mirrors, and the moment the reflection no longer flatters him, he will burn the whole room down in a desperate attempt to restore it. This is why many men fail in silence, not because they lacked skill or ability, but because their egos were far too fragile to endure reality. One loss is enough to make them vanish, one bruise enough to push them into retreat and fantasy. The truth is, they were never warriors at all, but children trapped inside adult bodies, craving applause instead of conquest. Yet make no mistake, the narcissist can still rise, and often he does, precisely because he knows how to wear the perfect mask. He adapts himself to match what you admire, becoming exactly what you most want to praise. In politics, in entertainment, and in leadership, narcissists frequently rise faster than anyone else. Why? Because they must. While others debate, the narcissist seduces. While others hesitate, he poses. He becomes a flawless mirror of public desire, and the crowd, starved for someone to worship, willingly gives him the crown. But herein lies the cruel paradox. The very thing that lifts him up is the same thing that ultimately destroys him. The instant admiration fades, he begins to self-destruct. Think of the icons who unraveled the moment the spotlight dimmed, the leaders who could not endure criticism, the creators who vanished when the praise dried up. It was never failure itself that broke them. It was their unquenchable addiction to being seen as perfect. And this is where the danger extends, not just for them but for everyone orbiting around them. When the narcissist begins to lose admiration, he never goes quietly. He manipulates, he guilt trips, he lies, he rewrites history, demonizes those who refuse to feed him praise, and in relationships becomes controlling, in business vindictive. He cannot allow you to move on, because your attention is his oxygen. He will shame you, charm you, or destroy you, anything to remain at the center of the stage. And if he can no longer be worshipped as the hero, he will reinvent himself as the victim, or worse, the villain, not out of strategy, but out of sheer desperation. This is not real power. It is dependency masquerading as dominance. And once you recognize it, you begin to see it everywhere. The loudest in the room, the most polished, the ones who constantly need to feel special. They are not free. They are dying for applause. And here lies the final cruelty. Most men ruled by this type never realize it until it is too late. They convince themselves they are chasing greatness, when in truth they are only chasing compliments. They imagine they are leaders, when in fact they are addicts for praise. While they build a false self for the world to admire, their real self slowly decays, unnoticed, unloved, and eventually forgotten, because their entire existence was spent trying to embody someone else's ideal. Never once did they pause to ask, "Who am I?" when no one is watching. That single question haunts them, and if they ever slow down long enough to face it, it shatters them completely. For the truth is, the narcissist does not truly desire power. What he craves is to look powerful, and in the end that illusion becomes his cage. But what makes it even more dangerous is that some narcissists learn to weaponize their charm. They evolve. They study attention as though it were warfare. They seduce not merely to be loved but to control, and once that shift takes place, the narcissist ceases to be simply fragile and instead becomes calculated, strategic, a charming manipulator who wears vulnerability like armor. This is the moment he begins transforming into something far darker. No longer defined by the clumsy, desperate hunger for praise, he has now learned how to control and weaponize it. He is no longer a child begging for attention, but a seasoned performer who understands his audience better than they understand themselves. Refined, selective, and deliberate, the evolved narcissist operates with precision. Yet despite all appearances, the original wound remains buried within him. He does not seduce to connect, but rather to gain leverage, compliments. Once his lifeblood have shifted from being sustenance to being currency, traded for loyalty, obedience, and worship. In this form he becomes truly dangerous, not only to himself, but to everyone who mistakes his carefully crafted mask for genuine depth. For the moment you believe in his illusion, he owns you, and once he owns you, he feeds, sometimes openly, often quietly, but always consistently. Behind every soft smile and every gentle voice, he is extracting something from you: admiration, sympathy, envy, or submission, all without ever lifting a tangible weapon, because his real weapon is you. He plays the victim with masterful precision, confessing his flaws only when they can be reframed as bravery, sharing his pain only in ways that elevate him as the tragic hero, and admitting failure only in forms that highlight his supposed strength in survival. This is how the evolved narcissist traps you. He offers just enough truth to appear authentic, just enough vulnerability to appear safe, and just enough charisma to appear magnetic. In this delicate balance, you lower your guard, you begin to trust, you admire, and slowly your perception of reality begins to warp. You find yourself feeling inferior in his presence, without understanding why, questioning yourself more often, growing addicted to his approval, while simultaneously becoming terrified of his silence. That precise state of uncertainty, awe, and submission is exactly where he wants you to remain, because if you ever awaken to what he truly is, the spell shatters. Yet most never do. They remain locked in the orbit of his ego, endlessly circling a sun that shines only for itself. They mistake his confidence for superiority, his rehearsed storytelling for honesty, and his carefully constructed illusion for truth. They confuse emotional expression with emotional depth, and in doing so they pay the price in silence, left to wonder why they always feel unseen, unheard, and unworthy beside someone who claims to love them. This is because the narcissist does not build genuine connections. He builds mirrors, and you are only valuable to him when you reflect something he wishes to see. The moment you show him a reflection, he dislikes your independence, your anger, your strength. He punishes you, sometimes through distance, sometimes through cruelty, and other times through sudden, unexplained withdrawal. Each punishment, however, is reframed as your fault because the evolved narcissist is a master of blame. This mastery makes him almost impossible to confront. You cannot argue with him because he has rehearsed every possible response. You cannot accuse him because he will turn the accusation back on you. You cannot shame him because he will twist your words into evidence that you are the true problem. And if you try to leave, he will temporarily transform into everything you once loved, just long enough to lure you back into orbit. The truth is, he does not truly want you. He wants your admiration. He does not love you. He loves how you made him feel about himself. And once you no longer serve that purpose, he will discard you. Sometimes it will be done gently, sometimes poetically, sometimes even with tears that appear sincere, but discard you he will, because the narcissist is not here to build with you. He is here only to build himself, and you are nothing more than another brick in the structure of his image. And yet, despite this truth, you will still miss him. That is the cruelest part. Even when you see him clearly, even when you understand the depth of his manipulation, even when you finally summon the strength to walk away, something within you will still ache. This is because the narcissist is an expert in imprinting himself onto your psyche. He will be the first to say something no one else dared to say. He will be the only one who noticed the small detail you always hid. He will remember things others overlook, and he will give you the intoxicating taste of being completely seen, only to snatch it away. That is the drug, and once you have tasted it, everyone else seems dull in comparison. That is the trap he counts on. For even if you hate him, as long as you remember him, he still wins. Yet the greatest tragedy of all is that the narcissist himself does not even know who he is. For all the masks he wears, for all the identities he crafts, for all the people he mirrors, at his core there is nothing solid. The center is hollow. There is no stable self, only shifting images, each one desperately reaching for a glimpse of something real. He is both the master and the prisoner of his performance, a man enslaved by the very illusions he wields over others. And eventually, when the crowd has dispersed, the applause has faded and no one is watching, he is left with nothing but silence. That silence terrifies him because within it there is no reflection, no validation, only the haunting question, who am I if no one is looking? And he has no answer. So, he begins the performance again. Another audience, another stage, another mirror, always running from the stillness that would force him to face the truth of himself. This is where you must pause and ask yourself, does this type live in you? Are your goals genuinely your own, or are they bait crafted for applause? Do you act out of self-direction, or for the version of yourself you hope others will admire? Do you truly crave growth, or only the appearance of growth? Because if you lie to yourself here, you will never escape the narcissist's cage. You will spend your life performing, pleasing, posing, all while quietly dying inside. But if you answer honestly, something rare begins to happen. You stop acting and you start becoming. Yet the path to that clarity is brutal, because once you destroy one illusion, another darker one waits beneath it. Most people never make it past the narcissist phase. Their entire lives are consumed by the performance, addicted to admiration, enslaved by their own image. But a rare few evolve. They stop needing to be admired and begin to crave something far colder, to win. These men are no longer chasing praise, they are chasing control. And in this ruthless evolution, the second dark type is born, the Machiavelli. The Machiavellian does not care if you love him or fear him, he cares only that you obey him. Where the narcissist craves attention, the Machiavellian craves leverage. He studies people like blueprints, reducing them to patterns, flaws, and weak points. He speaks only when it shifts the board. He trusts no one, because he understands the game is never about being liked. It is about being untouchable. His personality is built upon a single, unyielding belief. People are tools. They can be used, sharpened, broken, or replaced. He does not hate them. He simply refuses to romanticize them. To him, emotions are liabilities, loyalty is negotiable, kindness is camouflage, and truth is a weapon, drawn or concealed, depending on what will secure victory. You will often find him behind the scenes, not in the spotlight. He is the advisor, the strategist, the invisible hand shaping outcomes, the silent force moving empires. He rarely speaks first. Instead, he waits, observes, and measures you long before you even realize you are being studied. And when he finally does speak, It is never in reaction. It is always a calculated move, precise and deliberate, designed not to sway emotions but to shift power. This man does not lose his temper because he does not value anything enough to be ruled by emotion. He has already accounted for betrayal, already factored in failure, already predicted your disloyalty before you've even committed it. He plays long games, quiet games, games with no audience. While others announce their ambitions, he remains silent. While others boast, he listens, recording every word, every weakness, every flaw. By the time you recognize his danger, he already owns half the board. That is the Machiavellian advantage. You see nothing until it is too late. For unlike the narcissist who burns for recognition, the Machiavellian understands a far harsher truth. Visibility is vulnerability. And eventually, when the crowd has dispersed, the applause has faded, and no one is watching, he is left with nothing but silence. That silence terrifies him, because within it there is no reflection, no validation, only the haunting question, who am I if no one is looking? And he has no answer. So, he begins the performance again. Another audience, another stage, another mirror, always running from the stillness that would force him to face the truth of himself. This is where you must pause and ask yourself, does this type live in you? Are your goals genuinely your own, or are they bait crafted for applause? Do you act out of self-direction, or for the version of yourself you hope others will admire? Do you truly crave growth, or only the appearance of growth? Because if you lie to yourself here, you will never escape the narcissist's cage. You will spend your life performing, pleasing, posing, all while quietly dying inside. But if you answer honestly, something rare begins to happen. You stop acting and you start becoming. Yet the path to that clarity is brutal, because once you destroy one illusion, another darker one waits beneath it. Most people never make it past the narcissist phase. Their entire lives are consumed by the performance, addicted to admiration, enslaved by their own image. But a rare few evolve. They stop needing to be admired and begin to crave something far colder, to win. These men are no longer chasing praise, they are chasing control. And in this ruthless evolution, the second dark type is born. The Machiavellian does not care if you love him or fear him. He cares only that you obey him. Where the narcissist craves attention, the Machiavellian craves leverage. He studies people like blueprints, reducing them to patterns, flaws, and weak points. He speaks only when it shifts the board. He trusts no one, because he understands the game is never about being liked. It is about being untouchable. His personality is built upon a single, unyielding belief. People are tools. They can be used, sharpened, broken, or replaced. He does not hate them. He simply refuses to romanticize them. To him, emotions are liabilities, loyalty is negotiable. Kindness is camouflage, and truth is a weapon, drawn or concealed, depending on what will secure victory. You will often find him behind the scenes, not in the spotlight. He is the advisor, the strategist, the invisible hand shaping outcomes, the silent force moving empires. He rarely speaks first. Instead, he waits, observes and measures you long before you even realize you are being studied. And when he finally does speak, it is never in reaction. It is always a calculated move, precise and deliberate, designed not to sway emotions, but to shift power. This man does not lose his temper because he does not value anything enough to be ruled by emotion. He has already accounted for betrayal, already factored in failure, already predicted your disloyalty before you've even committed it. He plays long games, quiet games, games with no audience. While others announce their ambitions, he remains silent. While others boast, he listens, recording every word, every weakness, every flaw. By the time you recognize his danger, he already owns half the board. That is the Machiavellian advantage. You see nothing until it is too late. For unlike the narcissist who burns for recognition, the Machiavellian understands a far harsher truth. Visibility is vulnerability, and the man who is unseen is the man who survives. You feel it the moment you are in his presence, a strange coldness, though not unkind. He can laugh, joke, even charm, yet something is always missing. He never truly gives himself away. His compliments never reveal admiration. His anger never reveals weakness. His stories never reveal strategy. You walk away from the conversation believing you have connected with him, but in truth you haven't. He merely gave you the version of himself he wanted you to see, while quietly extracting everything he needed to know about you. That is his secret. The Machiavellian is always gathering power, not power through brute force, nor through charisma, but through position. And once he has enough, he does not fight. You simply find yourself trapped, outmaneuvered, outthought, cornered, without ever realizing how it happened. What separates the Machiavellian from the naive manipulator, however, is restraint. He does not act on impulse. He does not use force when deception will achieve the same result. He does not burn bridges unless the fire clears the path ahead. Every betrayal is perfectly timed. Every alliance is conditional. Every word carries a hidden weight of intention. This is not chaos, it is precision, and that is what makes him so terrifying. He is not needlessly cruel, he is efficient. If hurting you advances the board, he will do so with elegance. If helping you wins loyalty, he will do so with sincerity. You can never be certain which side of him you are facing, because the truth is, he is not on a side at all. He plays above the board entirely, watching everyone else scramble while he decides which move will end the game. And yet, even this type is not immune to danger. For while the Machiavellian may master others, he carries one fatal weakness, believing himself to always be the smartest man in the room. Arrogance, even when wrapped in strategy, remains arrogance. The moment he underestimates, the moment he convinces himself that his traps are infallible, the moment he begins to trust too deeply in the superiority of his own mind, he slips. Because even the most perfect plan, once revealed, becomes a target. The greatest power is always the power that remains hidden. This is the paradox of the Machiavellian. To win, he must never reveal his hand, never expose his true intent. But if he plays too long, too cold, too far above everyone else, he risks forgetting what the game was even for. And in that detachment, his empire slowly begins to rot from within. The question now is not whether you know someone like this. It is whether you are becoming him. Have you started to see people as levers instead of lives? Do you watch more than you speak? Do you find yourself feeling detached, calm, and surgical, even in the middle of chaos? And perhaps most importantly, do you like it? Because if you are evolving from a narcissist into a Machiavellian, you may feel stronger, smarter, even unstoppable. But be careful, this type pays a heavy price. No connection, no peace, no true alliance, only advantage, only survival. And once you have chosen that path, there is no return to innocence, only the next level of darkness. He does not trust you, he does not trust anyone, and that mistrust is what keeps him sharp. The Machiavellian wakes up already playing the game. Before he checks his phone, before he speaks a word, every day is a battlefield, not of violence, but of positioning. He does not need to scream to be feared. He only needs to know what you want, because the man who knows your desires owns your decisions, and the Machiavellian has perfected this. He studies the people around him like a scientist. He learns their insecurities, their hunger, their guilt, not to heal them, but to use them. His relationships are blueprints. His favors are traps. His silence is strategy, and when the time comes to strike, he does not raise his voice. He simply pulls one thread, and the whole illusion collapses. This man understands what most men never will. Control is more powerful than affection, and influence is more lasting than intimidation. If the narcissist needs to be adored and the brute needs to be feared, the Machiavellian needs only one thing: to be obeyed without resistance. That is what makes him so dangerous. You will think it was your idea to submit. You will think you trust him because you chose to, but every word you heard, every compliment you received, every story he told was not for your approval but for your compliance. He does not need to convince you. He only needs to create an environment where resistance feels exhausting and agreement feels natural. And by the time you realize you have been led, you are already too deep in the web to escape. Yet this is not petty manipulation. The Machiavellian does not waste time on emotional games. His vision is far bigger than attention or revenge. He wants empire control over the entire board, not just one piece. And that is why he so often rises. In business, in politics, in war. The cold strategist is almost always behind the throne, if not seated on it. He calculates not just people but systems. He finds the weakest hinge in a structure and applies pressure. He does not need a throne to rule. He simply needs the man on the throne to owe him a favor, and that is the genius. While others chase power directly, he acquires it indirectly through debts, secrets, and silence. He does not fight to rule the room. He makes the one who rules the room turn and ask him what to do next. But here lies the curse of this type. No one truly knows him, and that isolation, while powerful, becomes its own prison. Because once everyone around you is a pawn, no one is ever truly close. You begin to question loyalty even when it is real. You anticipate betrayal even when it is not coming. You grow addicted to outsmarting everyone and paranoid that someone might one day outsmart you. So you never relax. You never trust. You never stop watching. Even in victory there is tension. Even in peace there is planning. Because the Machiavellian has confused mastery with meaning. He has mastered the game but lost the point of playing it. This is where the dark shift begins. Some Machiavellians grow tired of pretending, of performing, of waiting. And in this fatigue, they abandon strategy altogether. What rises in its place is not calculation but chaos. Coldness turns into cruelty. Precision turns into destruction. The manipulator becomes the destroyer, because eventually even the Machiavellian gets bored of pulling strings. He wants to feel something real, but real connection is impossible for him now. So he seeks sensation instead. Risk, pain, power for power's sake. This is how the strategist becomes the third type, the most feared of all. Before that descent, you must ask yourself, are you here already? Are you playing the game so well that you have stopped asking why you started? Are you isolating yourself for protection or because you no longer believe in anything but control? Have your relationships become transactions? Has your identity become strategy? If you are already living in the mind of the Machiavellian, then you already know how it ends. Cold victory, silent rooms, no trust, no peace. Just a mind that never stops turning and a world that never feels safe enough to let it rest. And from here the next phase is not higher. It is deeper into something more primal, more ruthless, and far less human. He does not need your approval. He does not need your loyalty. He does not even need your attention. The third type has moved beyond games entirely. The psychopath does not plan like the Machiavellian or crave admiration like the narcissist. He acts on pure impulse, pure will, pure dominance, with no guilt, no shame, no hesitation. While others are still calculating risks, the psychopath is already in motion, and by the time they have processed what is happening, it is already over. The psychopath is not concerned with reputation, nor is he weighed down by fear, regret, or self-doubt. That absence of weight is what makes him so deadly. He is the embodiment of detachment, not spiritual detachment, but surgical, cold detachment. He is a man who feels nothing except the thrill of power when others flinch. At first you may not recognize him. He does not always appear as chaos. In fact, he is often calm. Too calm. While others rage, panic, or stumble through fear, he simply watches with eyes that are cold, fixed, and unreadable. He does not over-explain. He does not justify. He simply moves through problems, people, and consequences as if they do not exist, and to him, they truly do not. Conscience is a weight. Emotion is a leash. The past is irrelevant. Only the next move matters. That is why he can lie without blinking, hurt without guilt, and destroy without hesitation. It is not personal. It is not even malicious. It is instinct. The predator does not hate the prey. He simply does not care if it bleeds. You will find him wherever chaos thrives, not hiding from it, but walking directly through it. While the narcissist freezes without applause and the Machiavellian waits for the perfect moment, the psychopath creates the moment. He thrives in fire, in unpredictability, in war. The more unhinged the world becomes, the more powerful he feels. He does not panic when the rules break. He breaks them first. This gives him an advantage that terrifies weaker men, because he is willing to go further, to cross lines, to ignore laws, to silence morality. To him, limits are not ethical. They are optional, and the restraint most people cling to is just another weakness for him to exploit. Yet this does not mean he is stupid or reckless. The psychopath is not a brute. He is calculated, focused, and often highly intelligent. He knows exactly what you expect him to feel, and he mimics it with flawless precision. He can say the right words, display the right face, even shed tears if necessary. But beneath it all, it is performance, pure and empty. Inside, nothing moves, nothing sticks, nothing truly exists. Because to feel is to be vulnerable, and the psychopath severed that part of himself long ago. Maybe it was through trauma, maybe it was through choice, but in the end it doesn't matter. What matters is that he is now ungoverned by conscience, and this freedom allows him to do what others cannot. Walk directly into the storm unshaken and bend it to his will, not because he is brave, but because he does not care if he dies while doing it. This is why the psychopath often becomes the king when empires fall. When the old rules no longer protect the weak, when institutions collapse, when fear spreads like wildfire, he rises. While everyone else is paralyzed by consequences, he has none. While others negotiate, he takes. While others hesitate, he strikes. And even those who see him clearly still often follow, not out of love, but out of awe. Because deep down, people admire what they fear, and they fear what they cannot predict. That unpredictability is the psychopath's greatest weapon. You never know if he will spare you or smile as he destroys you, but there is a cost. The psychopath may gain control, but he loses his humanity. He might win the war, but he walks off the battlefield alone. He might build the empire, but he will sit on the throne in silence because no one trusts him, no one loves him, no one stays. He is a storm that passes through, leaving destruction in his wake, and then moves on untouched. His name may echo in history, but no one will grieve him when he is gone. And the truth is, he does not care. That is what makes him tragic. He does not want to be saved. He does not even believe in salvation. He only believes in strength, in dominance, in raw, merciless willpower that bends the world to its knees. And once that mindset is fully embraced, it is almost impossible to come back. Still, many try to wear the mask. They imitate the posture, the coldness, the unblinking stare. But pretending to be a psychopath is not the same as being one. Because when true chaos comes, most men flinch, most men beg, most men break. The true psychopath, however, walks forward unaffected, not because he is fearless, but because he has nothing to lose. The moment you stop fearing consequences, you become capable of anything. The psychopath does not flinch because fear requires imagination, and he no longer imagines pain, loss, or consequence. He has moved beyond narrative, beyond guilt, beyond the emotional strings that bind and paralyze most men, and this absence of hesitation gives him his most terrible advantage: speed. While others analyze, he acts. While others worry about outcomes, he creates them. Not carefully, not methodically, but with raw, explosive force that destabilizes everything in his path. The psychopath moves. This is not recklessness, it is freedom, a freedom most men cannot comprehend because they remain tethered to shame, memory, and the need for social approval. But the psychopath severed those ties long ago, and in that severance, he became untouchable. Still, his power should not be mistaken for success. The psychopath is not a builder, nor a strategist, nor a man who cares for legacy. He does not negotiate, nurture, or preserve. He dominates and then moves on. He thrives in disruption, not creation, in conquest, not governance. That is why so many of them burn out, not from defeat, but from boredom. Once there are no more enemies to break, no more lines to cross, no more chaos to feed on, the thrill disappears, and without that thrill, there is nothing. Unlike the Machiavellian, who calculates for the long term, or the narcissist, who craves significance, the psychopath does not look beyond the moment. His life is a chain of nows, each one louder, bloodier, and more defiant than the last. Still, some of them rise to terrifying heights. CEOs, generals, cult leaders, crime lords, men who command not through inspiration but through force. Sometimes physical but more often psychological. Their gaze alone can freeze a room. Their silence can break a man. Their very presence alters gravity because everyone around them feels it. This is someone who does not care about rules, not yours, not society's, not even those of God's, and in a world built on shared illusions, morality, empathy, consequence, the man who steps outside those illusions holds unthinkable power. The power to act without restraint, to decide without remorse, to destroy without hesitation. That is the psychopath's kingdom. Cold, absolute, godless. But here is where the delusion of envy begins. Many weak men admire this type. They think strength means being feared, that to be free they must feel nothing, that to win they must become ruthless. But they do not understand the price. The psychopath does not choose this path. He is this path. His emptiness is not an asset, it is a condition. Not carefully, not methodically, but with raw, explosive force that destabilizes everything in his path, the psychopath moves forward. This is not recklessness, it is freedom, a kind of freedom most men cannot even comprehend because they are still chained to shame, haunted by memory, and desperate for social approval. But the psychopath severed those ties long ago, and in that severance, he became untouchable. Yet his power should never be mistaken for success, because the psychopath is not a builder, not a strategist, not someone who cares for legacy. He does not negotiate, nurture, or preserve. He dominates. And then he moves on. He thrives in disruption, not creation, in conquest, not governance. And that is why many of them burn out, not from defeat, but from boredom. For once there are no more enemies left to shatter, no more boundaries to violate, no more chaos to consume. The thrill evaporates, and without that thrill there is nothing left. Unlike the Machiavellian, who calculates for the long term, or the narcissist, who craves significance, the psychopath doesn't think beyond the moment. His life is nothing more than a chain of nows, each one louder, bloodier, more defiant than the last. And still some of them rise to terrifying heights. CEOs, generals, cult leaders, crime lords. They command not through inspiration but through sheer force. Not always physical, often psychological. Their gaze alone can freeze a room. Their silence can break a man. Their very presence alters gravity because everyone feels it. This is someone who does not care about rules, not yours, not society's, not even God's. And in a world built on shared illusions, morality, empathy, consequence, the man who steps outside those illusions holds unthinkable power. The power to act without restraint, to decide without remorse, to destroy without hesitation. That is the psychopath's kingdom, cold, absolute, godless. But here is where the delusion of envy begins. Many weak men look up to this type. They think strength means being feared, that freedom means feeling nothing, that victory requires ruthlessness. But they do not understand the cost. The psychopath never chose this path. He is this path. His emptiness is not a weapon, not an advantage, not an asset, it is a condition. And it comes with a quiet torment most can't see. A torment made of disconnection, of the inability to love, the inability to feel joy, and the inability to belong. The psychopath may rule the room, but he will never feel at home within it. He may break every enemy who dares to stand against him, but he will never know peace, Max, there can be no peace without attachment, and he has already slaughtered everything inside himself that could ever attach. Even worse, when the psychopath fails, he does not falter like the narcissist, who spirals into self-pity, nor does he recover like the Machiavellian, who recalibrates his schemes and waits for the next opportunity. No, the psychopath simply implodes, not with the fire of emotion but with the suffocating gravity of void. He ceases to function because he never learned how to suffer, how to wait, or how to rebuild. He only knows how to dominate, and when domination fails, there is nothing left. No community to fall back on, no purpose to sustain him, no identity to rebuild, just a cold silence deeper than death, because it is silence that still lives. This is the final cost of the third type. When he wins, he stands utterly alone. When he loses, he vanishes into nothingness. Either way, the story ends in isolation, and now you must ask yourself one final time, which type rules you? Which mask have you been wearing for so long that you've forgotten it was a mask at all? Have you been chasing praise like the narcissist, convincing yourself that applause could make you real? Have you been moving pieces like the Machiavellian, certain that control equals safety? Or have you become the psychopath, detached, efficient, untouchable, but hollow? Most men are ruled by one, influenced by another, and pretending they are none, but the only path to true power lies in brutal honesty. For when you finally admit which dark instinct governs you, you do not become weak, you become aware, and awareness is the beginning of mastery. Not mastery that suppresses the dark, but mastery that directs it. Not the illusion of goodness, but sovereignty over your own shadow. That is the rarest and most dangerous power of all. The man who sees the narcissist within himself and disciplines it, the man who sees the Machiavellian within himself and sharpens it, the man who sees the psychopath within himself and chains it. Such a man is not innocent. He is not soft, he is not safe, but he is awake. And in a world of sleeping men, he becomes the most dangerous type of all. If you followed these words to this point, it's because a part of you already knows this truth, knows it in your gut, in your marrow. You are ruled by a shadow, whether you openly admit it or not, whether you call it narcissist, Machiavellian, or psychopath. One of them already whispers through your instincts, shapes your choices, and determines your fate. Now tell me honestly, are you ready to face the mask you've worn for so long that you've forgotten it was ever a mask at all? Are you willing to master the darkness that governs you instead of being consumed by it? If this message struck a nerve, if it rang true, write in the comments, "I master my shadow." Let's see how many here are truly prepared to transform awareness into power. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, far more than you might imagine. See you.